I'm Olivia. I'm 29 years old, and 3 weeks ago, I walked into what I thought was my promotion celebration, only to discover it was an ambush. 60 relatives packed into my parents' dining room. Not one of them was smiling. My mother handed me a manila envelope and said, "You've been lying to us for years. Now you're going to pay." My father stood behind her, arms crossed, blocking the exit. My younger brother had his phone out, recording everything. I stood there, surrounded by people who were supposed to love me, and watched my entire life unravel in real time. But then I noticed a woman in the corner. A woman I'd never seen before. A woman who looked exactly like me. And she wasn't there by accident. Before I continue, if you want to know what happened next, take a second to hit that subscribe button and leave a comment telling me where you're watching from. Now, let me take you back 5 weeks to when everything started falling apart. I've worked at Morrison & Associates for 7 years. 7 years of 60-hour weeks, missed holidays, and being the first one in and the last one out. I started as a receptionist right out of community college. No fancy degree, no connections, just a willingness to work harder than anyone else in the room. By year 3, I'd taught myself legal research. By year 5, I was handling case preparation for 3 senior partners. By year 7, I was the one training new hires and keeping the entire office running. So when Mr. Morrison called me into his office and told me I was being promoted to office manager, I cried. Right there in his leather chair, tears streaming down my face like an idiot. He handed me a tissue and smiled. "You've earned this, Olivia. Every bit of it." That night, I called my parents with the news. Finally, after years of them comparing me to my younger brother Derek, I had something to show for myself. Derek, the golden child. Derek, who got a full ride to UCLA and still dropped out junior year to become a content creator. Derek, who lived in their basement at 26 and hadn't paid rent a single day in his life. But somehow, Derek was the one they bragged about at family gatherings. My mother's response to my promotion was lukewarm at best. "That's nice, honey, but don't get too comfortable. You know how these things go." My father didn't even come to the phone. I told myself it didn't matter. I'd stopped expecting their approval years ago. At least, I thought I had. 3 days later, my mother called with unexpected news. "We're throwing you a celebration dinner," she announced. "Saturday night. The whole family's coming." I nearly dropped my phone. In 29 years, my parents had never thrown me anything. When I graduated high school 3rd in my class, we went to Applebee's. When Derek graduated in the bottom quarter, they rented out a banquet hall. When I got my paralegal certification, my mother forgot entirely. When Derek got 10,000 followers on TikTok, they threw him a surprise party. "A dinner?" I repeated, certain I'd misheard. "For me? Don't sound so shocked." She sounded almost offended. "We're proud of you. Can't we show it?" Something felt off, but I pushed the feeling down. Maybe things were changing. Maybe after 29 years, they were finally seeing me. The week before the dinner, I did something I'd never done. I went through my old boxes in storage, looking for photos of myself growing up. I wanted to make a slideshow for the party, something to show how far I'd come. But as I dug through the boxes, I noticed something strange. There were almost no photos of me before age 2. Plenty of Derek as a baby, professionally shot, carefully dated. But me? A handful of blurry snapshots, no dates, no context, no hospital photos, no birth announcement. Nothing. I asked my mother about it once, years ago. "We moved right after you were born," she'd said. Things got lost in the shuffle. I believed her then. But sitting there in my storage unit, surrounded by Derek's meticulously preserved memories and my own sparse history, a cold feeling settled in my stomach. I pushed it aside. I was being paranoid, ungrateful, just like they always said. The night of the dinner, I stood in front of my bathroom mirror and barely recognized myself. I'd bought a new dress for the occasion. Navy blue, professional but elegant. I'd done my makeup carefully, spent an hour on my hair. I even bought flowers for my mother as a thank you. Looking back, I want to shake that version of myself, the one still desperate for approval, the one who couldn't see what was coming. When I arrived at my parents' house, cars lined the entire street. Through the windows, I could see movement, shadows, what had to be at least 50 or 60 people. My heart swelled. They'd really done it. They'd really invited everyone. I walked up the front steps, flowers in hand, rehearsing my surprised face. But when I opened the door, no one shouted, "Congratulations!" No one was smiling. The entire living room had been rearranged. Chairs faced a single seat in the center, like a stage, or a witness stand. My father stood at the front, arms crossed. My mother sat beside him, her face a mask of righteous anger, and behind them, projected on a screen, was my employee photo from Morrison and Associates. "Sit down, Olivia." My father's voice echoed through the silent room. "We need to talk." I scanned the crowd desperately. Aunts, uncles, cousins, my grandmother on my father's side. Not one familiar face looked friendly. They stared at me with a mixture of pity and judgment. I saw Derek in the corner, phone raised, the red recording light blinking. "What is this?" My voice came out smaller than I intended. "What's going on?" My mother stood and walked toward me, her heels clicking against the hardwood. "This," she said, snatching the flowers from my hand and tossing them aside, "is an intervention." She handed me the manila envelope. "Open it." Inside were bank statements, dozens of them, highlighted transactions, circled amounts, handwritten notes in the margins. "What am I looking at?" "Proof." My father stepped forward. "Proof that you've been stealing from this family for years." The room erupted in whispers. I heard my aunt gasp, my uncle mutter something under his breath. "Stealing?" I shook my head, trying to process. "I've never stolen anything in my life. These statements say otherwise." My mother's voice was ice. "We've tracked every suspicious transaction, every time you claimed you couldn't contribute to family events, every time you said you were too broke to help with bills. Meanwhile, you've been hoarding money in secret accounts." "Those are my savings," I said, my voice cracking. "Money I earned. Money I saved for years to buy a house someday. Money that should have gone to this family." My father's voice rose. "We raised you. We fed you. We put a roof over your head. And this is how you repay us?" I looked around the room, desperate for an ally. "This is insane. I've sent you money every month for the past 6 years. I paid for Derek's car insurance. I covered Mom's dental work last year. I literally gave you everything I could spare." My mother smiled coldly. "And we calculated exactly how much you owe us beyond that." She pulled out another document, a spreadsheet. Food, housing, clothing, education, medical expenses, from birth to age 18. She paused for effect. $327,000. I couldn't breathe. "You want me to pay you for raising me?" "Every parent invests in their children," my father said, addressing the crowd now, playing to his audience. "Most children have the decency to invest back. But Olivia here has done nothing but take. Take and take and take. We gave you everything." My mother's voice rose. "And you repay us with secrets and lies. You're selfish, Olivia. You always have been." The crowd murmured agreement. Heads nodded. My own family, my own blood, watching me be eviscerated and doing nothing. That's when Derek stepped forward, phone still recording. "Tell them about the promotion, Liv." He was grinning, enjoying this. "Tell them how you really got it." "I worked for it," I said through gritted teeth. 7 years of you, slept with your boss." My mother's accusation cut through the room like a knife. "We have proof." She held up printed screenshots, text messages, emails, all of them fake, obviously fabricated, but to this crowd, it didn't matter. The damage was done. "That's not true." Tears burned my eyes. "None of this is true. Why are you doing this?" My father held up one final document. A promissory note. "Sign this," he said. "Agree to repay what you owe, and we can put this behind us. And if I don't, then we go to your employer tomorrow with everything we have. The fake screenshots, the narrative we've built. Who do you think they'll believe? A girl from nowhere? Or a respected family?" I looked at the document in his hand. Over $300,000. A decade of payments. My entire future, signed away to people who were destroying me in front of everyone I'd ever known. My hands were shaking, my vision blurred with tears. I had no leverage, no power, no one in my corner. At least, that's what I thought. That's when I noticed her. A woman standing alone near the back door. Late 50s, silver-streaked hair, expensive clothes that didn't match the suburban crowd. She was crying. Not the performative tears of someone enjoying drama, but deep, silent sobs that shook her shoulders. And she was staring at me like she'd seen a ghost. "Who is that?" I pointed toward her without thinking. The room went quiet. My mother's face went white. "Nobody," she said quickly. "Someone who got the wrong address." But the woman stepped forward. "No." Her voice was steady despite her tears. "I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." My father moved fast, positioning himself between us. "Ma'am, this is a private family event. I'm going to have to ask you to leave." "Family?" The woman laughed bitterly. "That's interesting, Gerald. Tell me, does your daughter know the truth about her family?" My mother grabbed my father's arm. "Call the police. She's trespassing. Go ahead." The woman didn't flinch. "Call them. I'd love to explain to the authorities how you came to have Olivia in the first place." The room shifted. I saw confused looks, exchanged glances. Something was happening that I didn't understand. "Olivia." The woman looked directly at me, and I saw something that made my blood run cold. Her eyes. She had my eyes. The same unusual shade of green, the same slight upturn at the corners. "My name is Margaret Chen, and 29 years ago, I gave birth to a baby girl in a hospital in Portland. They told me she died during delivery. Complications, they said. They wouldn't even let me see the body." She was crying openly now. "I believed them for 3 years, until I found the paperwork. She's lying." My mother's voice was shrill, desperate. "She's a con artist, probably working some kind of scam, Linda." Margaret's voice cut through like steel. "Do you really want to do this in front of everyone?" "Because I brought documentation." She held up a thick folder. 26 years of documentation. The room had gone absolutely silent. Even Derek had lowered his phone. "What documentation?" My voice sounded far away, like it belonged to someone else. Margaret walked toward me slowly, holding out the folder. "Birth certificates. The original and the forged one your parents filed. Hospital records showing a healthy delivery, not the stillbirth they reported. Bank statements showing a payment of $200,000 made to Gerald and Linda Patterson 2 weeks after you were born." She paused, her voice breaking. "And a letter from a nurse who couldn't live with what she'd helped them do." I took the folder with numb hands. The first page was a birth certificate. Baby girl Chen. Born September 15th, 1996, at Portland General Hospital. Mother, Margaret Chen. Father, David Chen. Weight, 7 pounds, 4 ounces. Healthy. "That's your birthday," my aunt whispered from the crowd. "September 15th. I flipped to the next page. A second birth certificate. Olivia Marie Patterson. Born September 15th. 1996. At home. Parents, Gerald and Linda Patterson. No hospital, no witnesses, no proof. Just a forged document and a stolen baby. You bought me?" I looked at my parents. The people who raised me. Who I'd spent my entire life trying to please. "I was never your daughter. I was a transaction." My mother started sobbing. Fake tears, I realize now. Everything about her was fake. "We saved you," she wailed. "Your biological mother was young, unmarried, from an immigrant family. We gave you a better life. You gave me a life of feeling like I was never good enough." My voice hardened. "Because I wasn't yours. You never wanted me. You wanted the money." Margaret stepped closer. "I was 22 years old. My parents had just died in a car accident. I had no family, no support. A woman approached me in my 3rd trimester. Said she knew a couple who desperately wanted a baby. Said they'd pay for my medical bills, help me get back on my feet. I said no. I wanted to keep my baby." Her voice cracked. "So they took her anyway. Paid off a nurse to declare her stillborn. Handed her to your parents in the parking lot like a package." She looked at Gerald. "How much was my daughter worth to you? 200,000? 250? My father said nothing. His face was the color of ash. It was $200,000 up front, Margaret continued. Plus $1,000 a month for the first 18 years. Another $316,000. I found the records, Gerald. I found everything. The math clicked in my head. Over $500,000. My parents had been paid over $500,000 to raise me, and now they wanted another $300,000 from me directly. You were going to double dip. I stared at them with new eyes. You already got paid for raising me, but the payments stopped when I turned 18. So you waited 11 more years, let me build a career, build savings, and then you staged this whole thing to extract even more. My father found his voice. You can't prove any of this. Margaret smiled coldly. Can't I? The nurse who helped you that night? She's still alive. She's been talking to investigators for 6 months. She has records, Gerald. Signed, consent forms you forged, sedation logs showing I was drugged without my consent. Everything. She turned to the crowd. Your family didn't save Olivia. They stole her. They profited from her existence for nearly 3 decades. And tonight, they tried to steal from her again. The room exploded. Aunts and uncles started shouting. My grandmother stood up, demanding explanations. Cousins pulled out phones, Googling Margaret's name, finding news articles about a Portland woman searching for her stolen daughter. Derek had stopped recording. He stood frozen, face pale, watching his parents' empire crumble. I walked toward the door. My mother grabbed my arm. Olivia, wait. We can explain. We love you. Everything we did for you. I looked at her hand on my arm, the same hand that had patted my head when I brought home perfect grades, then turned cold when I asked for help with college. The same hand that had reached out for money month after month while secretly sitting on $500,000. I removed her grip, finger by finger. You don't love me. You don't even know me. You know the version of me that was useful to you. The quiet one. The grateful one. The one who never asked questions. I turned to face the crowd. I'm not asking any of you to take sides. This is between me and the people who raised me. But I want you to remember this moment. 60 people in this room. And not one of you asked if the accusations were true. Not one of you wondered why my parents would stage a public execution instead of having a private conversation. You all just watched. I paused. That tells me everything I need to know about this family. Finally, I turned to Margaret. The woman who looked like me. The woman who'd spent 26 years searching for me. I'm not ready to call you Mom, I said quietly. I don't know if I ever will be. This is all too much. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I understand. I've waited 29 years. I can wait a little longer. I walked out the front door and didn't look back. I wasn't there for the aftermath. But my cousin Rachel, the only family member who reached out to apologize, told me everything. The moment I left, my father turned on my mother. This was your idea, he shouted. You said she'd never find out. You said it was foolproof. The accusations flew. Secrets surfaced. Apparently, my mother had been siphoning money from their joint accounts for years, preparing to leave my father once Derek was established. My father had been having an affair with his secretary for a decade. The perfect family was rotten to the core. Within a month, they filed for divorce. Within 2 months, the district attorney's office opened an investigation into the circumstances of my adoption. The nurse Margaret mentioned cooperated fully in exchange for immunity. My parents were charged with fraud, forgery, and human trafficking. Their trial is scheduled for next spring. Derek's content from that night leaked within hours, but not the way he intended. The clips that went viral showed my parents' accusations, then Margaret's revelation, then my family sitting in stunned silence while the truth came out. The comments were brutal. Imagine filming your own parents getting exposed for buying a baby. This is what happens when narcissists think they're the main characters. That poor girl. No wonder she never felt like she belonged. Derek deleted all his social media. Last I heard, he was looking for a real job for the first time in his life. As for me, I kept my promotion. Mr. Morrison heard about what happened small towns talk and called me into his office the following Monday. I've known your parents for years, he said carefully. Or I thought I did. He slid a business card across the desk. This is a family law attorney. She's the best in the state. And her fees are covered. I stared at the card. By who? He smiled slightly. Anonymous donor. Someone who believes in giving people the resources they need to fight back. I found out later it was Margaret. She'd built a successful tech company in the years since losing me. She had money, resources, influence, everything my adoptive parents had pretended to have. But she never pushed. Never demanded a relationship. She just quietly made sure I had what I needed to rebuild my life. We meet for coffee every few weeks now. It's awkward sometimes. We're strangers learning to be family. But she tells me stories about my biological father, David, who passed away 5 years ago, always believing their daughter was dead. She shows me photos of the life I might have had. And slowly, carefully, we're building something new. I moved into my own apartment last month. Nothing fancy, but it's mine. Every piece of furniture, every decoration, chosen by me. No one else's expectations weighing down the walls. On my kitchen counter, I keep a framed photo Margaret gave me. My biological parents on their wedding day, young and hopeful, before everything went wrong, and next to it, a photo of me at my promotion celebration, the real one. The one my coworkers threw me 2 weeks after the disaster at my parents' house. 10 people. A homemade cake. A banner that said, "You deserve this." It was the smallest party of my life, and it meant more than anything my adoptive family ever gave me. If you've made it this far, I have a question for you. Do you think I should testify at my parents' trial? Comment A if you think I should help prosecute them. Comment B if you think I should let the justice system handle it without me. Comment C if you think I should try to make peace before it goes to court. And tell me in the comments, have you ever discovered a secret that changed everything you thought you knew about your family? Here's what I've learned from all of this. The people who raise you aren't always the people who love you. Sometimes they're just the people who happen to be there. Real family isn't about blood or legal documents or shared last names. It's about who shows up, who supports you without conditions, who loves you not for what you can give them, but simply because you exist. My adoptive parents spent 29 years treating me like an investment, a transaction that needed to pay returns. They counted every dollar they spent and resented every dollar I kept. But Margaret, a woman who missed my entire childhood, never asked for anything. She just wanted to know me, to make sure I was okay, to give me the truth I deserved. I'm not saying forgiveness is impossible. Maybe someday I'll find a way to make peace with what Gerald and Linda did. Not for them, but for me. Carrying hatred is exhausting. But for now, I'm focused on building a life that's actually mine. A life where I don't have to earn love. Where I'm not constantly calculating my worth based on someone else's ledger. I'm 29 years old. I have a job I earned. An apartment I chose. A biological mother who's learning to be present after 29 years of absence. And a future that finally feels like it belongs to me. My adoptive parents wanted to destroy me that night. They wanted to squeeze out every last drop of value before the truth came out. Instead, they set me free. And honestly, that might be the only real gift they ever gave me. Thank you for staying until the end. If this story made you think about the people in your own life who build you up versus the ones who hold you down, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe if you want more stories like this, and check the description for other videos I think you'll love. Take care of yourselves. And remember, you don't owe anyone your life just because they happen to be there at the start of it.